So do I actually have to pre-wash my fabric? Yes and no, just be aware of the consequences. So natural fibers, cotton, linen, hemp, bamboo, tencel, viscose, rayon, those are plant fibers. Those will shrink when it's being washed. And wool and cashmere will also shrink when they're being washed. That's not a comprehensive list. There are other natural fibers out there. But the whole thing about it shrinking when it is washed means that if you are making a tight-fitting garment, you should probably pre-wash that because it will shrink it. So then, once you make the garment, you don't wash it for the first time and then realize it doesn't fit anymore. Synthetic fibers like polyester, acrylic, nylon, those don't shrink. So technically speaking, you don't have to wash them. Polyester and nylon are especially really, really good at holding onto their dyes. Rayon, though, rayon, viscose, tencel, modal, it has like a million different names, and the most recent one is bamboo. That sucker loses dyes, like red, extremely easily. So by pre-washing these fabrics, you ensure that any dye that is going to get loose and mixed up around, it happens before you put hours of work into a garment. If you plan on combining natural and synthetic fibers in the same garment, you're going to want to pre-wash your natural fibers so that it doesn't shrink unevenly, because natural fibers shrink, synthetics don't. Certain fabrics are also extremely delicate and do not take well to certain washing processes, so you should pre-wash your fabric the same way you plan on washing your garment. That way, if that washing process kills your fabric, you will know before you spent hours on a garment. Fabrics also come from the fabric store with something called sizing on them, which is some sort of cover, spray, something that makes it so that it displays nicely in the store. So your fabric after it's washed will probably be a lot softer than your fabric before it's washed. Which means if you're working on something like a quilt where you have to cut very precise squares and shapes without it shifting, you might want to make your quilt before you wash it, because that can literally make the sewing and quilting process easier. However, this does mean that after you wash your quilt for the first time, it will take on a bit of a crinkle, because fabrics shrink, and if you're putting a whole bunch of different fabrics into a quilt that is supposed to lie flat, they might shrink at different rates, which means your quilt is probably going to take on a bit of a crinkled look. So if you're okay with that, then just go and wash your fabric after you make your quilt. Certain quilting cottons, like batiks, are also more prone to the dye going all over the place, so you might want to pre-wash batiks just to take care of that. Or wash your quilt with a dye catcher that will catch any loose dye so that it doesn't get all over your quilt itself. Pre-washing or not pre-washing your fabric is your choice, but now you know what the consequences of your choices will be. Happy sewing!